from controversial comments isn't starting now.
The reporters are calling all day, all night. They want to find out, did Trump make a mistake?
Now, Trump is saying he watched from his Manhattan apartment as people jumped from the Twin Towers on 9/11.
I have a window in my apartment that specifically was aimed at the World Trade Center because of the beauty of the whole downtown Manhattan. And I watched as people jumped, and I watched the second plane come in.
While people were seen jumping from the towers that day, Trump's apartment in Midtown is roughly 4 miles from where the World Trade Center's towers stood.
Many people jumped, and I witnessed it. I watched that.
Trump also stubbornly defending his widely debunked claim that there were large crowds in New Jersey celebrating the day of the 9/11 attacks, pointing to a line in a Washington Post story published a week later that said law enforcement had detained people allegedly seen cheering on rooftops in Jersey City.
Holding tailgate style. Tailgate. You know what that means? Tailgate. That means football games, Ohio State, thousands of people in parking lots, on roofs.
While government officials and even the reporter who wrote that story say the investigation uncovered no such celebration, Trump points to his Twitter followers as evidence to the contrary.
So all of a sudden, I'm getting all of these tweets. I saw it. I was there. I was this. But I saw it. I saw it.
The GOP frontrunner's dubious claims don't appear to be damaging him in the eyes of voters. A new Quinnipiac University poll shows Trump leading the field with 25% support in Iowa. But he has a new chief rival, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, close behind at 23%, doubling his support from a month ago. Dr. Ben Carson rounds out the top 3 at 18%, dropping 10 points from October. So far, Trump has offered only kind words toward Cruz, but he's hinted that might change if Cruz started to rise.
And Ted Cruz, Senator Cruz, has been so nice to me, I can't hit him. I may have to if he starts getting, really close. I may have to.
His wide.
See what he had to say.
Well, I've never seen anything like it. I've seen 2 huge 110-story buildings that are reduced to rubble, thousands and thousands of lives. I just got to see something that I've never seen before. I have hundreds of men inside working right now, and we're bringing down another 125 in a little while, and they've never done work like this before. And they're hardworking people, but they've never seen anything like it, and they've never done work like this before. It's terrible.
Tell me what it's like at Ground Zero. Tell me about the workers that you saw and what they're doing there.
Well, not only is it devastation, but it's very dangerous because every few minutes a whistle would go off and everybody would just run because you have all the buildings around it, which are in such a weakened state that people just don't know. And so they just have to take off. And then they come back and they're working under 50-story buildings that you don't know if they're going to fall down. So it's a terrible thing for the workers, and it's a terrible thing for the world, really.
How have you spoken to any of your men? Do you know how they're reacting to this? Because emotionally, this must be so incredibly difficult.
Well, there are a lot of them, but they've never seen bodies like this. I mean, the bodies all over. The great thing is when they find somebody that's alive, like the 5 firemen that they just found a little while ago. So that's the great thing, and that's what they're all striving for. But generally speaking, that's not the case. So they are working very, very hard, but it's a very depressing situation for these folks.
As you walked around and as you saw the piles of rubble, there are thousands of families out there who are hoping that someone might be in a pocket somewhere, still alive, still breathing, waiting to be dug up. As you assessed that damage from your perspective, do you believe that's possible?
Well, I would certainly not want to be the one to say it's not possible. Certainly it's a tough situation, but you can't give up hope because there's always hope. I mean, the 5 men, I'm sure their families thought that they probably were gone, and now they walk in the door. A couple of them walked away after they were dug out. So there probably are some more people in there, and therefore you can't give up hope.
You've had an impact on the skyline of New York. What is it like as you see it now?
It's like a whole different skyline. It's like a whole different city and world. I cannot believe the sight of Lower Manhattan without the World Trade Center, and therefore we have to rebuild, not necessarily in that form, but we have to rebuild at least as good and maybe better.
Just finally, can you tell me emotionally, as you walked around, we've heard some of the stories from the firemen. They're so exhausted, and mentally and physically. What was it like for you personally to go in and see all of what you saw?
Well, it was amazing to see it. It was a very depressing scene, but I'll tell you what, you really can take heart. These firemen and policemen and the construction workers equally, the courage they have is unbelievable. I mean, their work is unbelievable. I mean, their work, the courage